6 years have now passed since the A Quiet Place franchise started in 2018, and now we have our third film in the franchise. Let's break down this excellent horror trilogy.
What is up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And today we're going to break down the entire franchise of A Quiet Place, which is a very consistent, excellent, well-crafted horror franchise. The third film, A Quiet Place Day One, just came out in theaters and is doing really well at the box office. It's on pace to possibly be the highest grossing of all three films. It started out with a very strong $53 million opening weekend. It's already at $120 million, so very good job. And it was the highest budget with $70 million. The first film had a small budget of $17 million.
Wow, and it broke over $300 million.
$340 million gross for that.
Whoa!
And the second film had a slightly bigger budget of $50 million, and it ended up making $300 million. However, A Quiet Place Part 2 was wildly affected by the coronavirus COVID lockdowns. It was supposed to come out in the second week of March 2020. They canceled the release, and they released it in May 2021. And again, this was a time when a lot of people still weren't comfortable going to theaters. So I'm guessing if had a normal release and COVID never happened, A Quiet Place Part 2 probably would have doubled its box office of the first one and made close to $600 million because people love A Quiet Place, and they're so excited for the second film. And Day One is doing really well. I really enjoyed that film. We're going to break down the franchise in order chronologically. So we're going to do A Quiet Place Day One, also because it's the freshest film in the franchise.
Fresh.
And everybody wants to hear our thoughts about it. And then we're going to do A Quiet Place Part 1 and A Quiet Place Part 2 for the reviews. So I really love A Quiet Place Day 1. And what John Krasinski did with the first film was so excellent. It's one of my favorite horror films in the last 10 years. It was really special filmmaking. And he captured something new in horror that we haven't seen before. A lot of that film is basically like a silent picture, which is so interesting. And he proved that even in the modern landscape of movies, like you can make films with very little dialogue and still captivate audiences. And I think that Quiet Place Day One continues that tradition, and it's so important and ingrained in the DNA of the Quiet Place franchise. And it went in a big direction, seeing New York City ground zero. And then also very character-driven, like Krasinski's two films were. And even more so, I would say, in this film. And it was actually very interesting. A Quiet Place Day One did not go the way I expected it to. In some ways, I didn't love, but in some ways, I did love, and that were unexpected. So what did you think about the film, Jim?
Well, ironically, it's the loudest of the three, for sure, because we have about 20-30 minutes before the Death Angels first crash to Earth. And I really like the timeline of this one because it happens technically at the same exact time as the opening of A Quiet Place Part 2, because Quiet Place Part 2 opens back with that flashback of what happened in their small town, the Abbott family, their town on Day One. But now we're in New York City for Day One when the meteor crashes, or the bits of meteor and asteroid from the blown-up planet of the Death Angels' home planet have finally reached Earth.
Darth Vader blew up their planet, by the way.
It's crashed. Yeah, the Death Star nuked their planet. And now they're bits and pieces of meteor are crash landing on Earth, and this is the day where it all happens. Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn lead out this cast, as well as Djimon Hounsou comes back, who's in the second film, and Alex Wolff, who's now probably going to be a regular in Michael Sarnowski's movies, who is the writer and director, along with John Krasinski, coming up with the story with Brian Woods.
He was in Pig.
He directed,
first film.
So Sarnowski just made Pig, and then he got A Quiet Place Day One, and I think he did a really great job. This movie is huge in scope. It's a $70 million budget, but it feels like $200, especially the locations. You know, you're in New York City and then obviously building these great interiors and lots of action, lots of CGI, but used really effectively. And I was surprised how much of the Death Angels we saw, where we don't see too much of them in the first film. And when we do see them, it's dark. Second film, we get a bit more of them and a little bit more in daylight. But now we're seeing them constantly. And almost every sequence, we have a Death Eater showing up trying to attack
Death
somebody.
Angels. This is not Harry Potter,
What'd
bro.
I say?
Death Eater.
Death Eater. Death Angels. Not to mention, we have massive amounts of extras, huge population events going on in these scenarios and these set pieces. I think Lupita and Joseph Quinn, they were terrific together. Lupita Nyong'o, it's really interesting. I love the contrast of this film with the characters, where we have one character who is terminal. She's in hospice and she has cancer and she's supposed to die. She was supposed to die. They gave her 6 months, but she's still alive. They gave her a year, she's still alive. They gave her 2 years, but she's still going. But at some point, she's going to die. And she's accepted that fate. And obviously, her characterization is drawn from that of, I'm going to die and there's nothing I can do about it. I was once a young, healthy person, but this is my life now. And I'm just going to accept it while I can. And maybe I can get some pizza in New York City,
pizza,
so I can finally live my past and my memories. And we have Joseph Quinn, who plays this guy named Eric, who is just a lawyer,
law student
who's from England, going to law school in New York City.
Not a Death Eater,
who is terrified to die, doesn't want to die, says it multiple times. And so we have a great contrast of our two leads where one has accepted death and is willing to die. All they want to do is get pizza, and they're going in the opposite direction of the crowds of people trying to survive. And we have another character who wants to survive, will do anything to survive, but they work together to maintain their survival.
There's also another character who's basically a wild card, and that's Frodo. Frodo the cat.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I will correct you. The reason why they kept this budget pretty low for the look of it is they actually didn't shoot in New York City. They shot the majority of the exteriors in London. There are 2 shots in New York City, and they're outside of Patsy's Pizza. Mm-hmm. Those are the only actual shots they photographed in the real New York City because that's a real pizza place. And people say that is the actual pizza shop that originated the New York slice, like the New York style pizza.
Thin pizza, large slice.
is apparently the first one to really do that. But that's up for debate from what I could tell. But that's really the only shot in New York City. The rest of it was they shot in London at studio backlots that had very similar architecture to the architecture of certain neighborhoods of New York City. So that's how they kept the budget under $100 million, because shooting in New York City is very, very expensive exteriors. That's why only huge films generally shoot there for the most part.
Or if you're the Avengers, you just make your own New York City.
Yeah, exactly.
You build one.
Build it in Atlanta. And I really loved the first 20 minutes of the film before the major attack happens, because I was curious how they're going to set it up. Because in the first film, we just got the setup of the world, of the stakes and the rules, and then the attack happens on Bo, and then we got a quiet family and what their lives are like. The first film starts on day 89, so it's already happened. So I was very curious about what this film would be like, and I loved the opening because they did a fantastic job of making us connect to Sam in moments. And Lupita did a fantastic characterization of her role, and she bounces rough really well with Alex Wolff. They're really dynamic together. They ebb and flow. The comedy works. The sweetness works. The sarcasm. And she's someone who's like, she knows she's going to die, so nothing really matters. She's full of, she's apathetic towards everything. And she's nihilistic, and she doesn't give a shit, doesn't give a fuck about anything. And I like the poem she wrote. It's a great reference to what's going on inside of her. She says everything is shit. And also informs everything for her behavior and motivation of, I know it sounds kind of silly to want to, at the end of the world, she's going to go to a pizza shop, but that pizza shop has a deep, deep connection to her past and to her father and to the moments of her life that she enjoyed. And so she's willing to do anything and risk her life to go to that pizza shop and try to find one last slice of pizza before she dies. So I really liked that being the motivation rather than just survival. You know what I mean? He could have easily made the character just wanting to survive, having a family, all the bells and whistles we've seen before, like blah, 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 blah. We've seen it 1,000 times. So I thought it was interesting to have a terminal character who's like, I don't give a shit. I'm getting that pizza. And it gave us a new trajectory than the story than I was totally expecting.
To make us make sense why we're staying in those parts of the city for so long versus trying to seek refuge or trying to escape the city. Why would we stay there? And it's a really great point of why they would do that, as well as when Sam is connected with Eric, because Frodo brings Eric to Sam eventually. He's sort of latching on to Sam because he sees her as a survivor, ironically, even though she's terminally ill. That's how I interpret that. He sees her, she's a survivor. Everyone else is doing the wrong thing. I'm going to do whatever she does because she's still here, and she seems to not be as scared as everybody else. And I loved the attack. Not even first the crash landing, which leads into an attack, which was so electric and terrifying and visceral. We have probably what it felt like to be at ground zero of 9/11, with massive amounts of explosions and destruction and just white dust and debris everywhere. Everyone's covered in that white dust. And it really was terrifying just to watch, not even from an alien perspective of like, oh, aliens are here, but just what happened to the city. And then the Death Angels start to attack. And for Lupita's character, Sam, the Death Angel landed right behind their... I almost said it. I almost
said it just before it.
The Death Angel landed right behind their bus, unfortunately. She went to this marionette show that was in the city. Alex Wolff plays the nurse at the hospice that she works, that she's in, that she lives at. And great characterizations, like she has 2 outfits. And besides that, she just lives in her medical garments.
Yeah, I showed the closet, just 2 outfits.
It's futile to have clothing and possessions, but her cat is her life. That is her lifeline. She will do anything to protect Frodo. And Alex
Frodo!
He convinces her to go to the marionette show and promises they'll get pizza. The marionette show is really nice. This little wooden puppet who floats in the air with a balloon, but then it pops. And then everyone seeks refuge there in that marionette theater after the attack, when they start to understand that it's noise that is attracting the Death Angels.
Yeah, and I really, really liked a lot happening in this film.
What didn't you like about it, though? I would like to hear.
I will say, as a cat owner, I love my cat. I love Juno. You love him, too.
He's a good guy.
Would you risk your life multiple times if there were giant alien monsters killing everyone to save Juno?
First of all, Juno wouldn't let me.
Yeah, exactly.
Second of all, if I knew that it was aliens that were attracted to sound, no way I'm taking a cat. At some point, he's going to meow.
Yeah, especially
Frodo, the cat that played Frodo, didn't meow once in the movie.
That's like an amazing cat.
Amazing performance. That and then the dog from Anatomy of a Fall. We've had some top-tier animal performers in the 2020s, man.
I want an Oscar nomination. I want it.
The Oscars will give nominations and awards to animals before stunt people. But I think the cat was terrific, but I love the movie and I love Frodo, but there's no way that cat's not meowing at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But once you accept it,
it's fun.
Yeah, once you're like, okay, this cat's here for the whole ride, then I was like, okay, all right, let's
I love the
go,
cat.
Frodo.
The cat was one of my favorite parts.
Like that whole movie, I just thought of Aragorn saying for Frodo and running out to his death.
Frodo!
Like that's what this movie was the whole time.
It was great. There's sort of this personification of the cat, of the animal. Like it had human intelligence almost. It was doing things like it knew to do.
Yeah. I loved Eric's entrance from the flooded subway, like because the cat wanders off and explores the neighborhood, and then the cat Frodo stops at the steps of the subway, and it's flooded up to ground level, and then all of a sudden, Eric emerges, choking up water. Who knows how long he held his breath? I thought that was such a great character entrance because it's like when I saw that, I was like, imagine what he just went through.
Yeah.
Imagine what that guy just went through to survive whatever happened on that subway. He's the only one left. I'm sure out of thousands of people, he's the only one in the subway system who got out from that flooded area. I was so impressed. I was like, that's a sick way to introduce a character.
And also how loud he's being sucking in air because he's like, I haven't breathed in like 2 minutes, probably 3 minutes maybe. Like, it doesn't matter. I know that I can't make noise, but I have to breathe right now. And then Frodo's like, hey man, you need some help?
Come on over.
Come on over. And then we have this little team up of Frodo, Sam, and Eric. Like we said, Eric is following Sam around because Eric sees Sam as a survivor, follows her kind of like a stray cat in a lot of ways to her apartment where she gets her medication and where she tries to find her medication. We learn some more about her. Her father was a great pianist at a jazz bar, at a jazz club in Harlem, and she also was creative, and she was a writer and a poet, and that's what she was before she was terminally ill, because now she's just basically had to accept that she's going to die. And you can only imagine how long it's been since she's been in that apartment. And then they leave. She leaves, but Eric keeps following her. But she tells Eric, like, I'm going to go get pizza. She keeps trying to tell him, you go that way. Follow those people. But one thing about this movie, there's one thing I did not like. I just didn't love.
What's that?
There's a really cool scene where everyone survived. I think it's the first night. And then
In the marionette place?
Yeah. And I loved whenever the government would send the helicopters overhead to give information or directions of what to do.
Yeah.
Go to this harbor, Southside Harbor, to get an evacuation on a boat. The enemies, they cannot swim, blah, blah, blah. And so I like that when they're flying overhead and we get sort of information of what to do. And then slowly everyone's creeping up from their hiding places, and thousands of people have survived. And they all just sort of take on this sheep herd mentality of slowly walking to the destination that they've just been told to walk to from the helicopters, not realizing that you're all making so much noise. And then Sam, who's going in the opposite direction, it's sort of great. We get a classic New York City movie moment of bumping shoulders with people in the opposite direction. I feel like every New York movie has that at some point. I always see it. It's really great. So they got the bumping shoulders going in the opposite direction of a bunch of people walking. Checked off the New York City movie list, even though it's not in New York City, apparently. It's all in London. And then she keeps walking and understanding that all these people are making so much noise, whether it's the combination of all of the thousands and thousands of footsteps, people who are in crutches or in a wheelchair or a baby carriage. Everything's starting to accumulate decibels, which harkens back to the opening of the movie where it shows that every second of New York City is like 96 decibels, which is the equivalent to a constant scream. I love that. And instead of like diverting and going off the path off the street and stop walking through people, I feel like the studio would just wanted a cooler shot of the Death Angels attacking everyone around Sam while she's in the crowd. If I was there, if she really understood what was happening, I feel like she would have diverted and avoided the crowd. But it was a cool shot. That's the one thing in the movie I was like, why is she still walking through the crowd knowing that it's a ton of noise and just waiting for the Death Angels to come?
I completely agree. I was like, why is she not on the sidewalk?
Aside from that, I love the movie, every part of this movie.
I think that sequence was more of a visual thing because a whole group of people, like it was odd that so many people didn't realize how much noise they were making. I found that odd, but I guess maybe most people didn't realize what it was that attracted
I don't
them.
have a problem with the crowd because I think that's what would happen. I think people would do that.
Yes,
they would have that sheep mentality of like, oh, we're being told everyone's doing it. Let's all do it together. This must mean we're safe. I think that's totally fine.
Social conformity. Herd mentality.
In emergency situations, especially.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But you're right. While she was walking, I was like, girl, go over to the curb.
Get out of there.
Get on the curb. Get out of there. I had two other issues, but they were formed from really great scenes. I loved. We got a little bit more lore for this. We saw how the Death Angels eat. Finally, how they consume food. I just want to do a quick recap of Death Angels. They come from a lifeless planet. They use echolocation to hunt. Their planet blew up. Darth Vader destroyed it with the Death Star. And then all of the pieces... Now, because Death Angels have indestructible armor and skin, the explosion of the planet didn't kill any of them. They all survived, and then they all scattered on this rocky debris all in all directions of the universe, and this just happens to be a portion of that debris that hit Earth. But it's also really cool. They are extremely fast and extremely strong because their climate of their planet had much harsher gravity. So they're like Superman. So they're like Superman or John Carter when they're on Earth. So that's why they're able to jump and leap and just like thrash through a car easily.
Run several hundred miles per hour.
Yeah, exactly. So can they run that fast?
Yeah.
Damn, that's fast.
Dude, they come in seconds.
Yeah, they
You're in the middle of the woods and you cough, and then a Death Angel's up on you like in seconds. They run several hundred miles per hour.
So that's how they have all those physical attributes because of the gravity, harshness on their original planet.
But what was cool is in day one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I didn't realize it until the scene was almost over. This is when Sam is really weak and she's feeling every muscle on fire, and she needs her medication, which she's run out of, which is fentanyl. And Sam offers to go find it, and so he goes and gets it, and then the cat is following him, but he goes to try to catch the cat, which is in this broken down structure, this industrial lot sort of place. And he goes to get the cat, Frodo, but he's also stumbled upon what looks to be part of the planet or ecosystem from the Death Angels' original planet.
Like a big chunk of meteorite debris just landed here.
So cool. And then we also got a Queen Death Angel, this massive Death Angel, which was a great reveal because he's just on that metal beam. And then he looks right, and the Death Angel's head just comes up. Dude, that was terrifying.
It was massive, too. I loved
it.
I just missed it when it was gone.
I know.
I was like, oh, man, I thought we were going to see it again.
And then we saw them consuming sort of this big voluptuous like bulb that they
grow
popped open.
Yeah, so it was a garden.
Yeah, basically. And this bulb that they just tore open, started eating, and she rang the dinner bell like, hey, come eat, everybody.
Thanks, Mom.
Get inside. Come on, kids. And they start gorging on these bulbs that are all over the place. It was really cool. And it's just like, it also looked like hell, or also sort of like a nuclear wasteland, just like orange fire everywhere.
Yeah, that was that's a great point. I really loved that moment. I thought it was awesome. And I just wish that I was like hoping we were going to get that queen again. Because I thought it was so cool, but then like, oh, we never saw it again. I'm sure we'll see it in the next film, because they've confirmed a second film to be
so a second film to day
prequel.
1. So it's going to be A Quiet Place day 2,
day 5, day 4.
Well, they're also making A Quiet Place Part 3.
Yeah. So A Quiet Place Part 3 with Emily Blunt, and then A Quiet Place Day 1 Part 2.
But with all the franchises and IPs that are doing this, I think A Quiet Place is doing a great job of it.
Quiet Place, like I said, opening the episode, it's extremely consistent. Every one of the films is very good, and they're all great, and they're all enjoyable for different reasons. So I think that A Quiet Place right now, in terms of franchise filmmaking, is top tier in terms of the quality and consistency of each one of the entries. And so there's two things that happen in this film that I didn't love, and it's two moments that were so strong, and it was that Queen moment, and then it was also the moment of
So you wanted more Queen.
So I wanted more Queen, but not just that, and also I'm talking about Alex Wolff's death, which was great. Ruben's death. They're in the Marionette Theater. That engine turns on, and he goes behind the engine and just turns the generator.
It was a great moment because the power goes out,
Yeah.
then the emergency generator switch turns on.
Exactly.
So good.
So smart to throw that in.
Yeah.
It makes total
Really
sense.
clever.
It's not like some BS thing to throw in a horror movie. He turns it off successfully, and he sneaks out, and then they both look at each other like, oh, he did it. But then he drops, he kicks something over.
No, his shirt tears.
His shirt tears, yeah. And then there's a Death Eater in that hall.
A what?
You got me saying
Got you. We got him. We got him, boys and girls.
Congratulations.
Lock him up.
There's a Death Angel, snatches him, and he's dead. And it was great. It was awesome. And
Except for the guy sitting next to me goes bye-bye right before it
No!
happened. I wanted to stand up and punch him in the face.
oh my, what?
I couldn't believe it. Thank God it was the only time he did it, but he ruined the whole moment for me.
Holy
and the other
shit.
people around us. He just goes bye-bye, like out loud.
What the fuck is wrong with people? Like
couldn't believe
a
it.
grown man?
A grown man.
Holy
said
shit.
bye-bye before the death. I'm like, you're watching this movie for the first time with everybody else. Shut the fuck up.
Oh my god, dude. He's probably watched.
Congratulations, you predicted the most obvious death in the movie, guy.
It's in the trailers too, bro. Jesus. Oh my god.
I hated this guy
Great-
so much.
Great moment. I love the moment, and nobody said bye bye when I saw it.
Dude, it ruined it for me.
I bet. So those two scenes, they were super strong, very impactful, surprising, and I love them both. But then we cut away. We cut to a different scene. So both those moments, I was like, how did they get out of that situation?
Yeah, how did Sam
How
get out of it?
did
Good
Sam?
point.
Because the Death Angel's still there in that hall, and she's like there. She has to get out of there without making any noise. When they cut to her in a different room, sitting on a couch, looking at her notes, and I was like, oh, how'd she get out of there? Like, there's a fucking monster right there on the corner.
Because I think with the first two movies, it's such a great job. If there's a Death Angel in your room, just because you've diverted its attention, you still have to get out of there.
Exactly. And then with the Mother Angel, once Eric,
Mama Angel?
yeah, Mama Angel, once it walks past Eric and he grabs Frodo, or he doesn't even grab him, he's just like, oh, I got out of there unscathed. Then it cuts to him back in the church with Sam, and I was like, how did he climb down that pole without making any noise? Like he should have kept with the scenes and shown them escape, because just because the big thing happened and they got out without getting killed from that moment doesn't mean the danger's done. So I think with movies like this, you can't just let the characters leave danger without showing them leaving the danger.
That's a good point, because with the Death Angels, there's always danger.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always danger, and there's no way I could have climbed down that metal beam without making a sound with the cat in my hands.
And yeah, with the cat in your hands, climbing down that pole, impossible. So I was like, when it cut to him in the church, I was like, how the fuck did he get out of there?
Script, man.
Yeah, those are my only two qualms with the film. Honestly.
I guess for me, if I had one more tiny little critique, because I like this movie a lot. It's top 5 of the year for me right now. You've heard it here. July 2024, but I still haven't
Write
seen
it down, folks.
Write it down. I still haven't seen Twisters yet. It's coming out next week, baby.
Oh, Twisters! I heard it's great, man. I heard it's great.
I cannot wait. But I guess one other thing for me is the Death Angels, maybe there's sort of a slight inconsistency with how strong and powerful their hearing is, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I think that the first two films did a great job of whenever there's a Death Angel really close by and a character's like holding their breath and not saying a word, and the Death Angel keeps coming closer and closer to get I hear something, you know.
It's changing frequencies.
Sort of like I'm picking up on something. What's over here? Let's tinker around in this direction. I think someone's saying polo over there. Let me go check. And then but
no, that was a fart.
Yeah, the great thing that the first two movies do, especially in the first one, is when that's happening, they hide behind water or some sort of noise.
Yes.
So that the Death Angel can't completely hear them, or the sprinkler system turns on, something like that, and then a louder noise diverts their attention. Whereas in this one, there's a couple sequences where the Death Angels, they open up their faces and they're inches away from somebody. But I feel like if their hearing is so good, they should be able to hear the heartbeat at that range.
Yeah,
they should be able to hear a heartbeat. So for me, that's what I was thinking when I saw that in this movie a few times. Yeah, I mean, if you could hold your breath, sure, but your heartbeat, you'd be shitting your pants. Your heart would literally be beating out of your chest. That's how loud. Like, I would be able to hear it.
I totally agree, and I was thinking at the same time because Krasinski was so wise with it when a Death Angel came close. Like you said, there was water separating a would-be victim.
Yeah, we're not separating.
Or just
remember
like
the sprinkler system goes off. Yeah.
Because if you ever put a microphone up to somebody, you can hear like the air bubbles in their throats.
Yeah, but we're being a little nitpicky.
I know, but we're just saying though.
Yeah.
And also with the mama Death Angel, I was like, there's no way she's not gonna hear this guy.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I'm like, he's right there.
It's like the biggest of the biggest.
I can hear him, and I don't have super hearing.
Yeah. So I would say that for me, it didn't take me out of it, and I didn't not like it, but I was just like, oh, that's not quite in line with what we've seen before with the Death Angels. But I forgave it. I was like, whatever, it's still a fucking cool scene. But I was like, there's no way it's not hearing him. Like his heart, his adrenaline, his heartbeat. You could probably hear his heartbeat if you were standing near him.
It's literally what I said a minute ago.
So if you were standing near him with your
literally
head
a minute
up to his
ago,
chest,
I said that exact
you could
same
probably
thing.
hear Eric's heartbeat. But that being said, there's still really cool scenes. And I gotta say, Joseph Quinn and Lupita Nyong'o have fantastic chemistry in this film. They're both excellent performers. Like, they can cry fucking immediately, man.
Yeah.
You need some waterworks. It's like I was flabbergasted how many tears I saw in this movie, like real tears. Like, they are phenomenal.
No bullshit.
No BS. No Visine tears where they're crying but their eyes aren't red.
Yeah, when it cuts to just tears coming down the cheeks, you can tell.
I think it's such BS when people are crying or like sobbing in movies but their eyes aren't red.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it's not real crying. But these two, like, they can really pack the emotional wallop that is needed for the important beats of this film.
I can't wait to see Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch now. This movie gave him so much more screen time than I think really anything he's done.
I was
and
really
also
impressed.
He's going to be in Gladiator 2, which is coming out in December, which I cannot wait for.
I have a great little quote about it. He just did on Happy, Sad, Confused. Horowitz asked him about Ridley Scott. And he's like, how? So he shoots with like 8, 9 cameras at the same time, and during every scene and every take, like, what's it like? And then Joseph Quinn goes, I asked him about it. He just goes to me, he goes, gotta know where to put him.
That's not an answer at all. Just gotta know where to put him. That's fucking crazy.
He said it's great.
Yeah.
He said it's great.
I can't wait, man.
Yeah.
I bet the stills look awesome.
Yeah.
Denzel, if he's gonna be the Caesar in this movie, oh my god, it looks so
man.
badass.
Holy shit.
The outfit's great. You can just tell the gravitas. But Joseph Quinn has a great character design as well.
I'm really excited because he's great in Stranger Things, but I think in this film he really blew me away with his performance. And I was like, after this film, I was like, I cannot wait to see what this guy does with his career.
Yeah, you can really tell the difference between people who are insanely skilled and trained, like Lupita and like Joseph Quinn as the leads in this movie. And you know, other movies, their actors are, you know, there's a spectrum. But man, I think Joseph Quinn absolutely has it, whatever it is. He's got the juice, man. I think that's why people fell in love with Eddie in Stranger Things, because he has that quality, and people were so devastated when that character, spoiler alerts, because I think everyone's seen Stranger Things 4.
Yeah.
Everyone, when Eddie dies, everyone was devastated. I was devastated. I was pissed for days. For days, I was upset that they killed Eddie. But I think it's all because of Joseph Quinn, and he's phenomenal in this role.
And I think we could all say he's not in Stranger Things 4 because he did this Gladiator, and he's doing Fantastic Four. So I doubt he's in Stranger Things 4. 5.
Oh, 5?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not in Stranger Things 5.
No,
But
people were making theories that he might be like part of the other
he's
world.
fucking dead.
No, like he might be like they might use him. like reanimate him and stuff.
No, I think he's done.
Yeah,
I think he's.
Especially with this lineup of movies he has.
I think it's like a Sean Astin kind of
Yeah.
thing. He's like a one season kind of thing.
Well, that's what they always do with their new characters.
Yeah, but he was awesome in that. But it's so cool to see him in this movie. And it's got a great third act. I think this movie it really has a consistent tone, and it never loses its pace. It's really well paced. Never loses its momentum. We have great back and forth between emotional stakes, action, as well as beats of somber beats, and a great little sequence when they finally make it to Patsy's and it's destroyed, as we would have expected. What are the chances of it being fine and operable, and there being a pizza on the counter, ready to go? But I mean, that's the false hope of a terminally ill person, is I'm gonna get a piece of pizza in this destroyed city, it'll be fine. And Patsy's is destroyed, but Patsy's wasn't just about getting the pizza, but it's also connecting with her past, connecting with her father, connecting with her memories, living one final time before she has to finally accept death. And then Eric does a great job of finding pizza at another pizza place and writing Patsy's on it. It was really cute and endearing, and then does a little magic show for her and helps her live again and helps her connect with her home for the first time since she probably got diagnosed.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great second act and led into a fun conclusion and a fun finale. It was also great seeing Jaimin Hunsu back, who played Henry in part 2. And maybe in the second film of this part of the franchise, maybe it'll be Eric and Henry like on that island.
The second part of 5 films,
Yeah,
the fifth film in the franchise of part 2 of the second trilogy.
So maybe Eric was chilling on the island where Killian went in part 2.
It's possible.
With Jaimin in that like little community that Killian ruined. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, Killian legit.
Living in peace, and then he brings a death angel.
He didn't bring it there on purpose. The death angel happened to jump on a boat. But it's a great third act where Sam sacrificed herself, or she tries to sacrifice herself. She's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
she's hard to kill.
Yeah, she's hard to kill. She sacrificed herself so that Eric and Frodo can make it to the boats that are on the water.
They also change shirts.
Yeah,
It's very sweet.
she gave him
Her cardigan.
She gave him her cardigan,
and he
he
gave her his blazer.
Yeah, which is really sweet because it's the only possession she owns, really. And she gave him the cat. She gave him Frodo as well. I thought that there was a really touching and tender moment to give each other something.
Yeah.
And giving him the cardigan was really sweet. Also, it's good because it's yellow, so he can stand out, so that people can find him real easily.
Yeah. And the action does work really well. I love the stampedes.
The stampede and the sound design of the first one was excellent.
Stampedes are fantastic, and to see the herds of Death Angels was really cool. I like how they use the helicopters to attract Death Angels away from people in the city. Like the military is clearly using helicopters to divert the attention of Death Angels. And I loved the chase through the building. That's the skyscraper, the glass building.
With the poster you're talking shit about?
Whoa. The poster's terrible. The scene was
I'm
awesome.
just saying, it's the scene with the poster you're talking shit about.
The scene was awesome.
Yeah,
the poster was terrible.
Yeah, so it's exactly like I said.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
talking shit about a poster.
Yeah, well, it's a bad poster. You think it's a good poster?
I think it's all right.
You think it's all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's just like photoshopped in front of a building with fire behind them.
It's a movie poster, dude.
I know, but I feel like they could have done better.
Almost every movie poster is photoshopped quite extensively.
Yeah, but sometimes you're like, oh, this doesn't look like Photoshop. This Dune poster was Photoshop, but it doesn't. You wouldn't say it's like, oh, it's still Photoshop.
Oh, you mean they didn't actually get a giant sun behind Timothy and Zendaya?
No, they did not. Believe it or not.
Wow, I had no idea.
They didn't shoot at the right time in Arrakis.
They weren't actually on Arrakis for that photo? Wow, it's Photoshopped?
Anyways, I love that scene. Trying to get through the turnstile door was great.
That was really fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Even though it's in the trailer, I was like, in the moment of the film, I was like, oh my god, like, oh my, this is really gripping and very suspenseful. Like, they did a great job with the action, and I'm looking forward to what the next film has in store for us.
Yeah, and it's a great ending where Eric survives, he makes it on the boats, and he's rescued. And then Sam, she's probably spent another day or two in Harlem or in her home, and she's now accepted her fate and is finally going to accept death. So she's listening to Nina Simone's Feeling Good on her iPod, and then eventually unplugs the earphones, lets the music blare, and the creature appears behind her.
Yeah.
So she's going to totally beat it to death. Just kidding. Sam's dead.
Sad.
Sam's
Sad
dead.
stuff.
I really enjoyed this movie. It was a great summer horror movie. We needed this because horror's been having not a great year in 2024.
It's about to blow up.
It's about to pop.
Yeah.
It really is. But the first quarter and first half of 2024, horror's been lackluster. But this was the start, I think, of a great boom in summer for horror.
It was a fun summer flick. It was great escapist spectacle. Excellent acting, some fun kills, and some scares. It was just like everything you want in a summer blockbuster.
I just wish that guy next to me didn't say bye-bye. I wish I could have. I wanted. Oh man, that fucking guy.
You should have made him bye-bye.
That fucking
you
guy.
should have said bye-bye and stabbed him in the throat.
That fucking guy.
I got some fun facts.
Let's hear it.
Lupita Nyong'o was actually afraid of cats before filming this movie.
Afraid of cats?
She had to go to cat therapy to play Sam. And she explained, I was terrified of cats. I couldn't be in a room with a cat. I was suspicious of them. I was pretty sure they were out to get me. But I wanted to play Sam so badly, and she has this cat. So I had to face my fear. They hired someone to bring some cats to me in L.A., and over a number of days, I observed the cats and asked lots of questions. And when I felt brave enough, I touched one, and then it was two. And before you know it, I was petting one until I could hold a cat without freaking out. She actually now owns a cat who she adores.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met anyone that was afraid of cats.
Yeah, I don't think I've met anyone who's
Not
afraid
like
of
that
cats.
bad, yeah. I know people that are afraid of dogs.
I know people who are like repulsed by cats, which just makes no sense because they're so cute. But like, how can you not like a kitten? How can you not like a kitten?
True.
It's like
That's funny that she's suspicious of them.
Yeah, but now she has a cat, and she like did like a Vogue photo shoot with it. It was very cute.
Oh, it's so cute.
Next up, the cat Frodo was actually played by two cats named Nico and Schnitzel. Fake. I'm not even like.
Are they twins?
Not
Or
maybe
brothers or sisters?
Maybe this provided. Yeah, I think because they have the same owner, they have German names. This provided a comic relief for German audiences because Schnitzel is the German word for escalope, a highly unusual name for a cat. I don't know what escalope means. Escape.
Sounds like escape.
The director of The Bike Riders, Jeff Nichols, was actually signed on to direct this film for a couple of years. However, he dropped out due to creative differences with John Krasinski, as well as Paramount gave him the go-ahead to work on a passion sci-fi project he's been trying to develop for years.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have done a great job too. But clearly he wanted to do something else. Maybe he wanted to make the Death Angels vaping or something like that.
John was like, no, vaping's not good for you.
No vaping for Death Angels. But John, they're indestructible.
We don't know what that stuff does to you yet, man. No vaping for Death Angels. All right, I want to move into A Quiet Place, the original film.
Oh yeah,
Part
we're
one?
chronological, right?
Part one.
Technically, Anthony and I got in a fight before the show started. Technically, the opening of part 2 chronologically would be now, but let's do A Quiet Place part 1.
Now we'll do release, yeah.
Let's do A Quiet Place then.
Because I love it.
Well, we've never done a full episode on A Quiet Place. We did this in, I think, an episode with a couple other horror movies, I believe.
Yes.
And we talked about it for like 20, 25 minutes, and everyone knows how good A Quiet Place was. That was such
We still haven't done a full episode on it.
Yeah.
Even right now.
We never will. We never will do a full episode. And this was just such a huge hit. And low budget, 17 mil, pulling a $340 million box office, is massive. John Krasinski's, not his directorial debut, but his biggest movie ever at the time, and still is his biggest box office performer. And he just was a terrific choice to make this film.
This was a spec script written by two writers.
Yeah.
The guys who made 65. David Beck and Scott Woods. So they wrote the first draft of this film, and Michael Bay actually bought it. His production company bought it. Michael Bay was making the Benghazi movie with John Krasinski, and he's like, hey, I got this script. You'd be great for the lead. And so Krasinski read it, and he's like, I love it. And I'd like to direct it too, but I want to rewrite it. And so Krasinski did a rewrite on the script and signed on to direct it.
This is a really brilliant movie. It really is. It's so well directed and so well acted, and it's so quiet. Like Anthony said, it basically plays out as a silent film, and it opens up on day 89 of there's been this outbreak of aliens that destroy and kill anything that makes a noise on planet Earth, and this family has been surviving up until day 89. We're following them now on that date.
Krasinski, I think this is just such a well-crafted, well-made horror film. It's all about his directing is really the strongest part of the film, and he understands to respect the audience. So the opening of this film is brilliant, where the Abbott family go to the store, gather what they need, and they leave. And they have the interactions about the toy rocket ship. It's a really great scene, but Krasinski doesn't tell the audience the rules of the world. He shows the audience the rules of the world. Nobody explains like, oh, you can't talk or you're gonna die. It's all action, and that's really great filmmaking. He does not rely on any exposition whatsoever. And at the end of this opening, the audience 100% is on board with what's happened to the world and what the dangers are and what the rules of the world are. And it's just like you don't really see that often in big filmmaking like this. And it's a very simple, small story that basically acts as like a short film prologue for the film. They're looking through the store, gathering supplies. Bo, the young boy, he sees the rocket ship and he wants to turn it on, but he can't. His parents are like, no noise, no nothing. And so Krasinski's Lee, he takes out the batteries and puts it back on the shelf. And then his mom, Evelyn's like, oh, it's okay, chin up, kid. Grow the fuck up.
Don't be such a pussy.
And then Reagan, his older sister, feels really bad. So she gives him the toy rocket, knowing that there are no batteries in it, so it can't make any noise. And then they all leave. And then it stays on Bo. And then it cuts to the family walking. They're walking on the sand track.
Well, Bo takes the batteries.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they showed it.
They show it.
Do they show it?
100%.
Okay. All right.
Don't look at me like that.
All right.
I know they show it.
All right, man. I just know you have a history of just saying shit that has never happened.
This is true. I'd bet my life on it.
Okay, I'll believe you on that. Believe you.
Thanks.
Reluctantly. and we don't have to say that, oh, you gotta walk quietly or like we have to be quiet. All we see is them walking on this trail of sand.
Well, also little details like they're not wearing shoes.
Exactly.
And
that's what I'm
also,
getting to,
the shelves, no one took the chips.
Yeah.
The bags of chips are still there.
Yeah.
Because they're so
ain't
noisy.
Ain't no one using chips.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's telling the audience everything without anyone saying a word, which is so brilliant. And then obviously Bo, at the end of the line, turns on the rocket ship. Noise sets off. Lee's like, fuck. And he runs to him. Runs. The audience is like, what's going to happen? What's going on? And then out of nowhere, Death Angel comes, snatches the boy. Boom. Gone. Cut to black. It's the 4-minute opening, and it tells us everything we need to know. And I thought it was just such a brilliant way to start a film.
It's pretty great because then they cut to day 472. And we learn more exposition throughout Lee and his research. He's got a little bunker full of newspapers. He's doing all kinds of things like investigating other countries, investigating reports of their weaknesses. He's discovered that they attack at sound. They might have armor. There are potentially 2 or 3 in the area that they live in.
3 confirmed.
3 confirmed sightings of Death Angels in their areas.
And they operate like territorially.
Yeah, and he lights fires every morning, every night at the top of, they have a corn tower, I guess you would.
Tower.
Yeah, like a corn tower instead of
a mill
water.
tower.
Yeah. And he lights a fire so that the other families in the area, they all do it at night, so they all know that they're still alive. But also, we have a great family story. You know, they've adapted to life of making no noise. They have quiet dinners. They play Monopoly with all pieces that don't make any noise. And also, unfortunately, Lee could not keep it in his pants. And love is still alive.
No, he couldn't pull out.
Come on, Lee, you gotta pull out,
Pull
bro.
out, man.
Come on, man.
Well,
Accidents happen, Anthony. Accidents happen.
nobody's perfect. Evelyn's pregnant.
Evelyn's pregnant again.
Yeah. And then Reagan feels guilt about Bo's death. And then Marcus, the next son, who's a little bit younger than Reagan, he understands that there's a huge amount of friction between Lee and Reagan, and he wants them to reconcile. But Lee... And Reagan thinks that Lee hates her now and doesn't love her anymore, when in fact, Lee, I think, is just afraid to approach her about the topic of Bo's death, and he's so focused on what he's doing. But he's also, he does love her because he's been spending months trying to figure out a new hearing device for her that works. What was I going to say?
That Lee's focused, and that Reagan thinks he doesn't love her.
All right. There's a huge debate about something in this film.
Ooh.
And I think that, I always defend it, and I made a post the other day about how great A Quiet Place is, and there was a lot of hate comments about this thing in this film. Now, in the second act of this film, Lee takes Marcus to the river where there's a waterfall, and Reagan's upset that she can't go. What happens is Marcus and Lee are at the waterfall. Lee takes him behind the actual waterfall, and he screams, scaring Marcus. Marcus is like, oh no, they're going to come. Then he teaches Marcus that the water prevents any noise from really reaching. I mean, it blends in with the sound of their voices, so
Yeah,
they
and
can
it's
talk.
that great shot outside the water where they're screaming, but all you hear is the water.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people who've watched this film, they're very critical, and they're like, why aren't they living by the water? Why aren't they living by the waterfall? Like, why didn't they? A lot of people say, like, why not build a house on the water? Now, I have a lot of reasons for why the Abbott family doesn't live by the water. So, first of all, I think that it's really important for both parents that they wanted to maintain a family home and a real home for their kids, to give them a home to still grow up in, even in a place like this and this dystopian like this, to still grow up in a nice home. Also, they live on a farm where they grow their food.
Where'd you grow up? On a farm.
On a farm. They grow their crops. They eat all their crops, and it looks like this river and this waterfall is several miles. So it took them, I think, all morning to get there. So I think that farming from that far away is kind of impossible. And so you're living on next to your food source. Next up, they have electricity in their house. They have electricity. They have power. You wouldn't be able to have electricity or power if you live by the water. And then also, how are you going to build a house without making any noise? Where are you going to get the wood? You're going to saw the wood. You're going to hammer the wood. You're going to carry everything. You're going to transport everything over there.
It's probably going to suck. It's not easy to build a house.
Also, you're making a lot of noise carrying stuff. You're going to drop something. I mean, there's just too many things that could go wrong just transporting everything from one home to the other home. Like, there's just too many variables that could go wrong. It's way too dangerous. Cutting wood, moving everything is just too noisy. Also, the riverside, how much space is even there for people to live? It's just a creek and then trees. You wouldn't even have any space to actually have a home.
You have to live underneath the waterfall if you want to
exactly.
If you want to make noise, you can make small decibels of noise next to the river, but you have to be on the water.
Exactly, yeah. And then living by a place with very constant noise, like a loud waterfall, that would be tough to live by. To spend 24/7 next to a waterfall. How are you going to sleep? I mean, that would just really drive you nuts.
Are you kidding me? It's like white noise to me, kid. I'd be out.
I don't know. It's a pretty loud waterfall. I don't know. Also, floods can be dangerous. There's flooding. There's a huge storm. The flood could destroy the home that you built right next to the waterfall. You drown your kids. It's super dangerous. Floods happen all the time. Also, animals water brings in life. You'd be dealing with snakes, dealing with leeches, tons of bugs, other animals, wild animals that are probably hungry. They came for a place to drink and they see fresh meat. So there's way too many risky variables in that the Abbott family would encounter if they moved to the waterfall.
I think the number one thing would be they would lack quiet discipline.
Yeah.
They wouldn't build the discipline to live life as quietly as possible, and then they would slip up and they'd wander too far away from the waterfall, not realizing that they're making noise that can be heard because they're used to making noise because they're living at the waterfall, but they haven't learned to adapt to a quiet world. So
that's a fantastic point.
Thanks, man.
So, I mean, it just makes total sense to stay in the home.
Shut up, everyone who's complaining about that.
They have electricity at the house.
Where are you going to... Yeah, I never... It's not like a big waterfall.
Yeah.
You can't, fit a house under that waterfall.
But people say, live by the water.
I think all those reasons prove that it's not a great idea.
Yeah.
Although if you snore, you're fucked.
Yeah, if you snore, you're screwed.
But they do... they're preparing for their newborn baby. It wasn't the best thing to do is to get pregnant again. But they have this tiny little soundproof box with an oxygen tank and a little baby oxygen mask, which is adorable, for when the baby's born.
It's so cute. And there's a lot of great humanity in this film. One of my favorite scenes is when Evelyn and Lee dance in the basement listening to the headphones of that song. I think that it's such a nice emotional moment.
Do you know what that's a reference to?
What?
The Office.
Oh my God.
There's a scene where Pam and Jim share headphones and an iPod while she's waiting for Roy to come pick her up or someone to come pick her up and listen to a song for a minute. And he did the same thing in A Quiet Place.
Wow.
I don't know if he's probably referencing it, but
I mean, it also makes sense for the world. That's how you would listen to music.
Yeah.
Yes. I never put that together.
As an Office deep track aficionado and expert,
I can confirm this.
First time I saw that movie, I'm like, that's The Office.
But there's a lot of things that go wrong in this movie. That's what you want. You want that conflict in a script. You want that the stakes in a horror movie.
Things are gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
You're living in a world where you can't make sound and we're human beings.
Yeah. And it's their life. They would have been fine if it wasn't for having the baby or Like, you know what I mean? Just things
Yeah,
like...
the thing with the Abbott family is they were already pretty well adapted to communicating without sound because Reagan's deaf. And because of that, they had an advantage at survival compared to other families that you could argue that because they probably couldn't communicate, maybe they got frustrated with each other, or maybe things weren't said specifically where it caused someone to make noise.
Yeah.
But because this family can all sign and they can communicate without making a noise, they had a massive advantage at survival.
And, you know, the huge conflict of the second act, it really all starts because of a nail on the steps. A loose nail.
Well, it starts because Evelyn's doing a little too much.
She's doing too much.
She's doing too much because, you know, Lee took Marcus out to go hunting, and she's doing some laundry, and she's trying to lug that big bag up. She's a little too pregnant to be doing this and gets caught on that nail.
Yeah.
But, man, I love...
Oh, that nail.
I love a loose nail in a horror movie on steps, man. It's one of my favorite cliches or tropes.
Makes my skin crawl.
It's one of those horror tropes that it's in so many movies, and I still love to see it. It's like a dead animal in a horror movie.
I'm not sure if it's been done since this movie did it.
I'm sure it has it in a movie, but not in a major horror movie.
Yeah.
But it's one of those great tropes that it's in there. You know it's going to happen. You know someone at some point is going to step on it. It's just a ticking time bomb.
And they do a good job of once shit hits the fan, like this movie is nonstop for 40 minutes, and it's really fantastic.
Yeah, especially so. It really all starts with Evelyn when she steps on the nail, and then she starts going into labor.
Yeah.
And she steps on the nail and drops the picture frame.
Yeah.
And Reagan's gone off to visit her brother's grave. Lee and Abbott are still up because they escaped that old man whose wife had just been killed, and now he's going to join her in death and screams, and so they're running back. And also, and so she drops the picture frame,
Yeah.
and then she looks up the stairs, and the Death Angel's already in the house. Now it comes down there with her, and she's being as quiet as possible, does the little cooking alarm, and it goes off, and it distracts the Death Angel enough for her to get out of the house. And then the fireworks, right? And then, but she has to give birth.
She doesn't leave the house. She
Goes upstairs.
Whereas, and she sets off an alarm of the lights, the red lights. So she turns the red lights on, which warns Lee and Marcus when they're approaching the property. Oh shit, Death Angels are here, and so he tells Marcus, "Go do the fireworks," while Lee's like, "I'm gonna get a shotgun. And I'm gonna protect my lady."
Yeah.
And then while that's happening, Evelyn is trying to evade a Death Angel, and she goes into the bathtub. She's also having contractions and trying to be quiet. The contractions are those, like, that's one of, like, the craziest scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie.
Great poster.
Yeah.
The main poster for A Quiet Place is her in the bathtub with all the empty space above her, just clutching the edges of the porcelain, just trying to hold in a scream.
Yeah. It's great, and it's like Emily Blunt. Oh my God, she's so good in this movie. She's so good at acting. It's like it looked like she was going into labor. And your first time watching this movie, you're like, oh my God, don't make a sound, don't make a sound. And the Death Angel's just outside the door. It's creeping inside. It's gonna hear her. Then the fireworks go off.
And she lets out a scream at the same time.
Yeah, it's great.
It's perfect time because she's holding out as long as she can, but then she finally lets it up. But fortunately, the firework goes off and it pulls the Death Angel away because it's louder.
Yeah, it's really good timing, Marcus.
But shit's not over yet. Because a fire... No, not a fire yet. Not yet, right?
So Lee arrives to the house, and he finds Evelyn, and she gave birth to their child.
Oh, yeah.
He brings her downstairs into the soundproof basement below, and the baby's sleeping, and she's like, "You better bring my fucking kids back." No, she's a great line. She's like, "Who are we if we can't protect our kids? Like, who are we?" And he's like, he's gonna bring them back, and so he keeps her there, and so she's gonna chill there with the baby while Lee goes and finds the kids.
What's causing all the water again? Oh, it's the Death Angel burst a pipe down there when it was attacking the timer because she wakes up and the water in the basement's flooding.
Yeah.
And the baby's in the box floating, and then a Death Angel's also in the water.
Just playing around.
That's a terrible thing to wake up to.
That's a terrifying scene.
You wake up after giving birth, your baby's floating in a box, and there's a Death Angel in the basement with you.
And there's also something that's happened multiple times, and it's Reagan's hearing device, which sets off some a great amount of pain within the ears of the Death Angels because it's putting off the same frequency as they're hearing, and so it's the worst kind of sound I think that they can experience, and it happens when she's alone in the crop field pathway, and it happens multiple times in the film. She ends up using it as a weapon, but I think it's a great part of the film that he put into it.
Yeah, because she doesn't see it happen the first time, and then she doesn't really understand it, and she even turns it off at a point, which obviously leads to the death of Lee. if she only understood what it meant at the time, she eventually figures it out. But I love the sequence of Evelyn in the water, and it's like what we were talking about earlier, when the death angel, it's approaching, it can hear something, but also there's a lot of water in the background.
Yeah.
So it's distorting the hearing a little bit of what he's trying to pinpoint, what it's trying to pinpoint on. And then Evelyn goes underneath the pouring water to hide her sounds even more.
And then the noise of the kids, they climb the tower to make a fire to signal to Lee that that's where they were, and he sees them on the security footage when he went to. So Evelyn's in the barn, Lee's in the goes to the house, to his basement to get some stuff, sees the kids lit a fire on top of the tower where he always does every night. He's like, okay, that's where I'm going to go. But then Marcus falls through the door, falls into the corn below. That's what captures the attention of the Death Angel in the barn basement with Evelyn, and that runs off.
Man, what a great last 15 minutes, too, because we have the kids, they get out of the corn container.
Well, hold on. It's a great moment where she goes down to save Marcus. He's sinking, and then she helps him climb on top of the door, but she ends up sinking, and then he saves her, and then a Death Eater jumps down.
A death what?
Death Angel. Oh my God.
Can you believe this, everybody?
It's tough.
All the shit he was giving me
tough.
at the beginning of the
I
episode.
was just laughing. I didn't give you shit.
He was giving me so much shit. He said, James, you're an idiot. It's Death Angel, not Death Eater. You idiot.
That's exactly what I said.
Anyways, back to the last 15 minutes, because we have the sacrifice.
The sacrifice.
Man, this broke my heart when Lee sacrificed himself to save the kids, but he has to. It's the only thing that can give them a little bit of time to hopefully survive. And there are multiple Death Angels on the premises, and the kids are in the car. He screams out to protect them.
Well, first he says, I love you. I've always loved you.
I've always loved you.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
I'm going to cry too. And unfortunately, this is the moment where Reagan turns off her hearing aid.
Yeah.
Because it's hurting her. And she doesn't understand yet that it can be a weapon. But then she finds out and figures out later on when she goes to the basement with her mother after they ride the car down. They go into the basement and she sees all the work that her father's been doing and finally understands why he's always down here. And he's all the surveillance, all the information, all the video feeds, everything he does constantly to keep them safe. And then the hearing aids, the dozens and dozens that he's gone through, all the soldering machine. And it's a really sweet moment. And then obviously a great ending where finally, probably for the first time, someone's been able to kill a Death Angel. It's probably the first time, besides a Death Angel drowning, that someone's actually killed one.
That's what I like to think of as like this first one that like a person killed a Death Angel. And it's such a great moment when it's approaching them in the basement, and then she sets off the hearing device on the microphone in the speakers, and then the shell of its head just opens up, and Emily Blunt's just like, it's a great moment. And man, when this movie ended, because after that, they're like, oh shit, look what we just did. Then they see the security footage of 2 more Death Angels coming, running towards the house. And then the camera pushes in on Emily Blunt. She has like a slight smile, and she cocks the shotgun. Cut to black.
It's pretty cool.
And when that cut to black, I was like, woo, let's go.
Badass.
Oh my God.
Badass.
Oh my God.
Badass.
I love it.
Great movie, great ending. I really like Quiet Places. I think it's my favorite in the franchise.
That's my favorite for sure. I have some fun trivia too.
Let's hear it, man.
John Krasinski played the creature in A Quiet Place with a motion capture suit for a lot of the scenes. He was actually the one like, he was like,
coming for you.
Emily Blunt did the bathtub scene in one take. And according to John Krasinski, as soon as he said cut, Blunt left character and asked the crew, what's everyone having for lunch?
Imagine being that good of an actor.
Yeah, you could just shut it off like that.
Oh, what's everyone having for lunch?
In A Quiet Place, the filmmakers purchased 20 tons of corn and hired local farmers to grow it.
Pretty cool.
Followed the Christopher Nolan way of making corn.
Grow your own corn, then sell it. Did you know that that in Interstellar, Christopher Nolan grew the corn and then sold it for a profit? Those memes are so funny.
The movie A Quiet Place features only 25 lines of spoken dialogue. The device that Reagan wears is actually not a hearing aid, but a cochlear implant. This indicates that Reagan has a sensorineural hearing loss, which means her inner ear has sustained some sort of damage. The cochlear implant, and it translates vibrations into the air into nerve impulses that the brain perceives as sound. Brian Woods and Scott Beck's screenplay was named one of the 10 best scripts of the year on Tracking Board's 2017 hit list, an annual list voted on by industry professionals. In order to connect with the characters, John Krasinski edited the first 2 cuts of the film without any sound, which is very cool.
Very cool.
All right, that's it.
All right, Anthony, how about we head to our intermission and we'll finish up with Quiet Place Part 2.
Let's do it.
Now, before we continue, the very best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to is to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Why would you want to do that? Because you get ad-free versions of every single episode. You get bonus episodes every single week of the show that only patrons can access and listen to, as well as perks like access to our Discord, video messages, free merchandise, all kinds of things. Patreon is the only reason we can do the show full-time. Thank you to all of our past, present, and future patrons. Join today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Another great way to support the show is to leave 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. These ratings help us get seen by new people, add some rep to the channel and to the podcast, as well as we just love to read those 5-star ratings on Apple. At 5,000, I'll get a tattoo of Anthony's choice. We got to bump those numbers up, everybody.
Those are rookie numbers.
And the final way to support us is to just share us. Word of mouth is the best way for a podcast to grow, so share us on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter. Share our TikTok videos, share our Instagram videos. Send everybody you know who likes movies our podcast so they can join and become a film boy or a film girl themselves.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com to get 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. They are also doing a movie poster giveaway contest for us in this episode. If you want to enter for a chance to win a free movie poster, all you have to do to enter is make a comment in the YouTube episode of our Quiet Place franchise review. If you make a comment in that YouTube episode, it enters you into a chance to win a free movie poster from movieposters.com.
That's all you got?
That's all.
That's it?
Don't forget to use our promo code Raiders10 right now to get 10% off your order.
They're really great over there at movieposters.com.
Big
Love
time.
those people. Now, Anthony, let's get into our intermission. Are you ready?
Ready.
Now, let people get a second to guess, because
You always guess immediately when you know.
nuh-uh.
You always say that.
Nuh-uh. Listen, Anthony.
You've never waited.
Listen,
if you knew
Anthony.
it.
Listen. I'm not going to hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in.
Is that Dune? I think everybody knows what this is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, The Shining.
The Shining is a pretty fun one.
Here's mine.
Light of my life.
Wendy? It's hard to believe that the fear of offending can be stronger than the fear of pain. But you know what? It is.
God damn it.
Oh, I got him.
Oh,
I
no,
got
I
him.
know this movie.
Want me to say it again?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that the fear of offending can be stronger than the fear of pain. But you know what? It is. He's got it. He's got it.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Correctamundo, Martin Vangar.
It's
a great line.
Good one.
Great line.
Anthony, guess this movie release year. The latest version of The Wolfman.
2012.
2010.
Screw you.
It's real mature.
Guess the year Ronin came out.
The De Niro movie?
The De Niro movie.
Anthony just keeps leaning in and leaning back from his microphone.
I'm just chilling, bro.
You know that microphone can lean back. There you go.
Not backing up. I guess,
Ronin
yeah.
came out. Let's see. Was it before? This is after Heat. I'm going to say 1995.
98.
Oh, my God.
Heat was 95.
Yeah, you're right.
Nice job.
Anthony, I have a great pop quiz question for you.
What is it? I'd love to hear it.
Can you name all of the actors who have played the character Jack Ryan?
Just reminded me about like you do so many lists, but remember our live we did a lot when we did our live show in Boston. James asked me 6 list quiz questions.
They're fun.
In front of a crowd.
They're fun, man. They're super fun.
All right, Jack Ryan, Harrison Ford,
1,
Alec Baldwin,
2,
Chris Pine.
3,
How many people have played him?
5.
5
You're
people?
missing 2.
Who else played Jack Ryan? Oh, John Krasinski.
John Krasinski in the Jack Ryan show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 4.
A 5th person played Jack Ryan.
5th person
Fuck. Hold on. Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan.
in 2002.
Ben Affleck.
That's right. We have Alec Baldwin in The Hunt for Red October, Harrison
one.
Ford in Patriot Games,
Best one.
and in Clear and Present Danger.
That's the best one.
Ben Affleck in The Sum of All Fears,
It's pretty good.
Chris Pine and Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit,
The worst one.
and Krasinski in the current Jack Ryan TV show.
Haven't seen it.
I've seen an episode.
Is it good?
I only made it. I didn't watch it anymore. There's just too many shows to watch, man. There's too many things to watch.
James is way too busy.
Dude, who has time to watch all these shows?
That's true.
There's like 80 shows that people have to watch every week. Like, it's too many.
It's too many.
It's too many shows.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, man. Too many
I
cooks.
got things to do.
James is the busiest person in Los Angeles.
I am.
Believe it or not.
You
It's
guys-
not- it's not Nick Cage. It's James Deveney.
Anthony, besides you, we got any haters this week?
I left my phone in the house.
You left your phone in the house?
That's where I keep the haters list.
Wow, what a great excuse to give for not doing your job.
Sorry, it's in the house.
So let's just say Anthony's our one hater this week.
We got some good ones, but I'll read them out in the next episode. I'm really sorry,
How could
guys.
you? All right, well, we have a great 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from Soupy Drek.
What's up, Soupy Drek?
Film Boys, 5 stars. The review says, Film Boys, I softly whisper. I'm sorry, let me do that again. Film Boys, I softly whisper as I bleed out in a field of Moscow during the first days of World War III. Fucking hell.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. That's so interesting.
Film Boys, I softly whisper.
We
Soupy
were,
Drek,
we were their last breath.
the dying words were Film Boys. Should have named the podcast Film,
Film
Boys.
Boys.
Fucking hell, man. Let's go back in time.
It's a good name.
It is a good name.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we started the trend.
Yeah.
Anyways, Anthony, do you have a streaming recommendation for this episode?
I do. It's actually
Well, no one cares.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. People care.
Oh, yeah, they do?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm just kidding. They don't.
Oh. That sucks.
No, you know what? Go ahead. I care.
Okay.
Not they don't care, but I care.
Okay. The girl
I don't care anymore.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is on Prime. Watch it. It's awesome. I love it.
I'm gonna recommend *Malignant* on Max
You mean the movie we almost walked out of until it got good?
until it got great. Great opening 2 minutes.
Horrible.
Terrible
40 minutes.
Terrible minutes 3 to 24.
No, minute 3 to 50.
But then what a second
Once
half.
it gets
man.
going.
Whew, I love that movie.
We were in that movie for 40 minutes and we were like, should we fucking leave? it's awful.
It's pretty bad screen. It's pretty bad dialogue.
It's terrible dialogue.
Pretty bad dialogue.
Terrible characters. But a goddamn awesome villain.
Fucking good movie though.
Yeah.
It ended up being good as
Yeah,
fuck.
It ended up being really good.
All right. Let's get back into our episode on the A Quiet Place franchise. And now we're going to kick it off with A Quiet Place Part 2, which
Part
came
deux.
out in 2021, right? You
2021.
explained that they delayed the release because of COVID.
Yes.
And then it came out in 2021. And this is an excellent movie because it literally just takes place immediately after the events of Part 1.
Immediately!
Like right after. They like literally are walking out of the house.
Yeah.
Which I thought was the right thing to do.
And the barn's still on fire.
The barn's still on fire.
But first, it does open with another prologue.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the
Yeah,
prologue.
don't forget about the prologue. Don't forget about my man John Krasinski, bro.
What it's basically day 1 except on their town.
An even better opening than the first film. I love the opening. I love this prologue. It's great.
It is great, and obviously we get Killian in this movie as well as in the prologue, and it's a baseball game going on for Marcus.
Yes.
And Reagan and Evelyn are there, and Lee is just going about town. He goes to the same store
Yes.
that they go in the first film to get some water and some snacks and some fruit. Go back, and we get great characterization of everybody, but everyone's there at this park at this baseball game.
And we got a foreshadow where Emmett's teaching the family how to show the sign for diving for Emmett to get him to...
No, they're teaching Emmett.
No, Emmett's teaching them.
I thought they were teaching Emmett.
Emmett's teaching them to tell Marcus to dive by using the dive gesture. to slide into the base. Yes.
So, okay.
Dive.
Dive.
Which Reagan will use later with Emmett.
She
But we'll get
she
there.
Put that in her pocket.
Yeah, put it in her pocket, save her for later. Tom loves me.
Tom loves me.
But I love... sorry.
Tell to Mr. Ripley.
I love how Krasinski takes his time with this. Like, we're with Lee, like, we're just walking through the town. Because he's drawing the suspense.
And it's his only scene in the movie, so he's trying to draw it out, man. He's like, I gotta get all the screen time I can.
John, it's been a 17-minute take. Are you sure you want to keep walking down the street?
You've been in the same store.
Yeah, Lee forgets to buy 6 items, so he keeps going back in.
At least taking a shit.
Guys, it's vital to the story. It's vital.
It's my movie. It's my fucking movie. I'm not fucking leaving.
Killing myself was a mistake. You're the one who should have died, Emily. But the reason for it is he didn't just open with the meteorites falling within 5 minutes. The audience knows it's going to happen. So he's just waiting on bated breath. He's stretching it out like a rubber band. He's elongating this sequence, spreading it out.
Oh my god! What the fuck? Sorry, stretching it out like a rubber band, elongating it. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, stretching it out like
Yeah, that was fine.
Stretching like a rubber band till it breaks.
Yeah, no, that was fine. I get it. But the elongating was
Spreading it.
I'm done. I quit. I'm out, man. I'm out. You're on your own. Elongating the scene. Yeah, elongate that scene.
But it's because the audience knows that shit's gonna go down and there's gonna be mayhem. But they're not gonna know when it's gonna happen.
And there's some great stunts in this opening sequence. I love when Evelyn's in the car with Marcus and they're driving and they stumble upon one of the Death Angels, and they clearly had a stunt driver on the roof of this vehicle driving them, so she's not actually doing all the driving.
Yes.
But they go forward and then they're reversing after she crashes into one of the Death Angels, and they're reversing with a bus heading towards them with a Death Angel on the front of it. It's awesome.
It's a real bus. It was all practical.
Fantastic.
Even the Death Angels were there.
They elongated that bus to fit on that street, man.
They stretched it, man. No, but that was actually a real stunt. And Emily Blunt said in an interview that was her hardest day on set because she was so like anxious about it.
Yeah, and it's tough to do that because you have to be in tune with the stunt driver above you and who's controlling the car, but also there's still a bus heading for you.
Yeah, the
and
bus-
there's still cars flying past you. They're not going super fast. On camera
But
it looks
still,
faster.
yeah.
But it's
You
pretty
make impact with a
nerve-wracking.
bus, it's gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, it's still a fucking bus.
You're gonna get hurt.
It's still a bus.
But it looks great and some really great wonders and long takes and really puts you into the scene. I really love this. It's probably like 2 Death Angels landed in this area, a couple, and they still cause an insane amount of mayhem. But what I really love is during the baseball game, the entire group, they see the scattered asteroids falling in the sky way up above. And it's like they're falling in the atmosphere, but like they're not anywhere near hitting yet. But what I love is like it's not like a disaster movie where the crowd just immediately panics and everyone starts running. It's more like, and it felt very realistic to how people really act. Like a group of people seeing that, they'd all be like a little uneasy and like unsure of what to do. And it's like nothing's really happening right now, but this is kind of off, and there's weird vibes going on.
Weird vibes.
And everybody just slowly starts leaving. And it isn't like oh my God, we're all going to die. It's like, I thought it was, when the first time I saw this film, I was like, this is a perfect way to portray a huge group of people seeing something like that. Like they're just everyone just is like, okay, yeah, let's not play baseball anymore. Let's like get in our cars and go back home.
Plus the one that crashed on the other side of town.
Exactly, yeah. So I think he did a great job portraying that.
And what's interesting is it's not like Death Eaters or Death Angels.
Let's just call them Death Eaters, man.
It's tough to not say Death
Yeah.
Eater because we've
said it
seen
so
so
many
much Harry
times, yeah.
Potter in our lives.
We've said it so many times in our
The
life.
36 episodes in Harry Potter. It's not like they're just going after everybody. It's really clever how the writing just points out where they're heading. So we have the police car with the police siren that's drawing one of them. That's where one of them comes from. It doesn't come from the people. It goes after the police car.
Yeah.
And then also when Evelyn's driving the car in front of her, stops and honks its horn, the Death Angel goes after that car because of the horn honking. So it's really interesting, and I love the writing where the Death Angels are drawn to specific things in the town, but then after that, it's mayhem.
And then the shotgun of the police officer who's trying to kill the Death Angel as it's approaching and ends up killing him, but allows the family to get away.
Great sacrifice.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Sacrifice.
Lots of sacrificing in these movies.
And then it cuts to the end of the first film, and we're moments after that, and you can imagine Evelyn probably shot the fuck out of those two Death Angels that came into the house, and they killed them successfully. And when they came out of the basement, they saw the barn is completely on fire. They can't stay here anymore. They have to go, and she decides to be like, let's try to find the other survivors that are out there. We saw in the first film, whenever Lee would set the fire on top of the tower, he would also see a fire here and there scattered across the landscape horizon of a few other survivors. And it was like a communication of like, we're all still here. And it was like a routine thing they all did. So she was like, let's go to that fire. And it leads them into the story.
Which I loved picking up. I like not pushing it to like a couple weeks later. I like picking it up exactly where it left off. I think it's the most interesting thing to do.
It's fun when movies do that. Yeah.
And man, it gets going real quick, and they start fucking the characters up immediately because they get what they don't realize is Emmett's location, which is that fire, and they stumble upon his property, which he's booby-trapped to not keep Death Angels out, but to keep humans out. Mm-hmm. That's what his booby traps are there for. Yeah. His booby traps attract noise, which he has put in place with these bottles, this bear trap. All these booby traps are around his area because he doesn't want people near him because he's trying to survive, as well as he knows if people come here, they'll introduce Death Angels possibly with noise. And also he says multiple times that people have changed since Death Angels, since the world went quiet.
Yeah, we'll see that later in the film. And that bear trap was brutal. Like, the first time you see it, you're like, holy shit.
They actually did that to a kid. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was messed up, but it was awesome because it was like, Krasinski, he's really great with both of his films, and it's something that was kind of missing in the third film, of putting his characters into crazy situations and driving conflict with shit going wrong.
Well, I mean, the whole third movie's a crazy situation.
No, yeah, but like crazy obstacles that they have to overcome. Like being trapped in a basement with the Death Angel.
The subway flooding was pretty cool.
Having pregnancy contractions.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts.
You know what I mean? He sets up these crazy scenarios of conflict that seem like impossible, and the stakes are super high over and over again. And then the bear trap. Like, he opens the movie, it's like, yeah, the kid's gonna get caught in a bear trap. Good luck, guys. Like, it was such a great way to, it was so surprising to the audience. Like, we were expecting, like, oh, they're gonna walk for, like, it's gonna be like a 5-minute montage of them walking through the town. We're gonna see all sorts of, like, buildings, and they'll find a place to crash. No, they walk through a fence, and the kid gets in a bear trap. It was wild.
It's pretty ballsy. Yeah, I like it.
It was great.
But they find out that Emmett's here. Emmett takes them in and brings them into this bunker with this safe that's airtight and makes no noise. It's soundproof. And Evelyn, he's got a gator on his face so he can't see who he is, basically a face bandana. And then he sees the baby and lowers his mask because Evelyn recognizes that it's Emmett. And he tells him that he lost his boys on day 1 and his wife passed away 11 weeks ago, and he's just trying to survive.
Yeah, and at first, he doesn't trust people at all because you can only imagine the kinds of things he and Nora experienced and people they encountered before she died. She died 2 months earlier, so he must have seen the darkness of humanity that Evelyn and her family didn't because they've been living on their farm, but he's been in a much more populated area, so he's probably seen awful people and people that we'll obviously encounter later in the film. And so his first instinct is, like, get out of here. Like, you can go now. I saved you. But then when he sees the baby, he's like, okay, I'll help you guys. Because he sees, I think, the innocence of a child.
Yeah, and he shows him his setup. You know, he's got this little great one. He's got this loft in this factory. It's going well.
Welcome to my crib. What's up, MTV?
I sleep in this bunker in the safe. It's pretty great. You know,
I make drawings of my family.
A whole place to myself. It's pretty great. Everything you could ask for. There's a lot of tetanus possibility everywhere, but you know, just don't step on any rusty nails.
Cool thing about that shelf is you can hide your weed in there.
Now he also shows them that this radio broadcast of this song, I can't remember what the song is.
Beyond the Sea.
Beyond the Sea He says it's been playing like that for 5 months. He doesn't know what it means, but Reagan recognizes that it might be a sign, maybe a message. Maybe we should follow this lead of what it means, and she thinks that maybe there is a place, one of these islands, and she pinpoints where it's coming from. It's coming from an island off the mainland, just a few miles off the sea, off the ocean.
Beyond the sea.
And she takes it upon herself to go on her own to try and find this island.
Yeah, and I like it how she, with this film, Krasinski, he turned her into she's been through this turmoil in the first film, but she's also become a fighter and a warrior. And
I think she's becoming a lot like her dad in this
exactly.
one.
I think that because Lee is a great, protector archetype, family protector, and you don't see that too often in movies anymore. And I think that rubbed off on her, where she's just doing her best to protect her family and to protect everyone. And she thinks that the best way for their survival is to find other survivors on this island. So even though Evelyn doesn't want her to go and Marcus doesn't want her to go, she decides, like you said, to take it upon herself to leave in the middle of the night. And then Evelyn, desperate to get her back, she begs Emmett to find her and bring him back, and that's what leads Emmett searching for her.
It's really admirable for her to go and do this on her own because no one else wants to do it, but also she probably doesn't quite understand that she's insanely vulnerable because she can't hear the noises that she's making. She doesn't exactly know what's the decibel level of my footsteps on this ground versus that ground. What's it going to sound like if I step there or if I close this door?
Which is what her father was always afraid of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But obviously with her, her biggest weakness is her biggest strength, where she has her hearing aid and she knows the frequency now, and she has her weapon with her amplifier, where she actually has a tool to fight back against the Death Angels.
But I love, because he's such a good director and storyteller, and he's so truthful, and he believes in realism and authenticity. He doesn't turn her into a badass angel killer, where she's just taking them out left and right.
Angel Slayer.
What happens? She turns on the speaker when the Death Angel approaches her inside of that train, and she gets the shotgun. She misses, and the recoil throws her back. She's about to get killed. I think so many other filmmakers, they would have just turned her into a killing machine, and it doesn't make sense. She's a 9-year-old girl. You know what I mean?
She's 14.
So, okay, she's 4. Okay, the kid's 9.
Yeah,
but still that shotgun. It even a 14 will never.
Bro, that kicked me back.
Yeah, firing a shotgun for the first time, she's not going to hit it. But I think so many other filmmakers or studios would have made it let's turn her into a Death Angel fucking hunter. Yeah. Maybe now in the next one, she's going to be 20. I totally see that. But I think that he was it wouldn't make sense for her to just blow this thing's head off on the first try. And it's Emmett who ends up killing it, but she obviously made it possible with her speaker.
Yeah, I really like how she then convinces Emmett to come with me. We can go find this island and we can be safe together, and we can bring my family there, and we can all find refuge and live lives. And they eventually do make it to the docks. Well, at the same time,
what's going on with Evelyn and Marcus?
Some bad stuff.
The oxygen tank is low for little baby, whatever his name is, his little baby bro. What's the baby's name?
Death Angel.
Little baby is running out of low on oxygen, so Evelyn has to go back to town to get oxygen tanks at the store. So she has Marcus babysit, and Marcus...
Not a great plan.
Not a great plan. Marcus wanders around, makes a little bit of noise, and so a Death Angel shows up.
Well, he finds Nora's dead body.
Yeah, finds Nora's body.
Rotting.
Yeah, rotting. That's what he falls back in shock, and that's what makes the noise. Death Angel shows up. He quickly snatches his little bro, and they hide inside of the safe. However, Emmett had a cloth on the safe door so that it could be opened from the inside. When Marcus goes in with the little baby bro, the cloth falls down, and so they're locked on the inside and can't open the door from the inside. And oxygen only lasts so long inside of that. So that's another instance of putting your characters in a crazy situation that's impossible for them to get out of.
Yeah, all the characters are eventually going to be faced with Death Angels at the same time, because Emmett and Reagan, they find the docks. And they find this little girl, but it's a trap. She puts a noose around his neck, but then
Scoot McNairy shows up.
Scoot McNairy's there, yeah, that's right. But all these cannibals, it looks like, are just killers, and just people are changed, and they're coming to kill them. And Emmett and Reagan dive into the water while Death Angels come. And they escape, but the Death Angels kill everyone else. However, Death Angel does go on top of a boat. But they make it to the island.
And we also see that they cannot swim because they're so heavy.
Yeah.
Their density of their armor makes them sink immediately.
Too heavy. All that strength for nothing.
What is the point of all them doing all them push-ups if you can't even lift a bloody log?
I hope he wasn't a member of the fire brigade.
Meanwhile, Evelyn gets back to the warehouse and finds that Death Angel trying to kill her kids. And it approaches her. She has a great idea of shooting the oxygen tank right next to it, which blows up. Doesn't do anything, obviously, to the impenetrable armor, but sets off the sprinkler system so that she can maneuver through and save her kids.
Good thing there's some fucking water in there.
Yeah, man. Good thing.
Those tanks were empty. She'd be fucked.
Yeah, she'd be done.
Saves the kids.
Great moment.
They
though.
hide inside the vault, but they do have to stay in there to hide from the other Death Angel that's coming down. But what I love is Emmett and Reagan find this island. They make it to the island, and it's this oasis. People are making noise and living life like they used to. They're happy. They're having bonfires. They're laughing. They're joking. They're fucking.
Until Killian ruins it all.
Killian ruins it all. You know, they're welcomed with open arms, but in the morning he finds
Joel Jaimin Hunsu's there.
Yeah.
He plays Henry, and he has a great conversation, like talking about the exodus of New York City, and they all left on boats, and 12 boats were carrying people off the island of Manhattan. Only 2 got out unscathed. The rest of them died. So I loved in day 1 we got to revisit him as a character.
Yeah, and that story was the basis of that plot, which is really cool, or the escape. And then Killian in the morning sees the boat has washed ashore, and he's like,
It's been fucked up.
I killed everyone here. And so he has to go warn them. And it's this great sequence where we're on an island, everyone thinks they're safe, and then Death Angel starts to come and kill everyone.
Yeah, man, just wreaking havoc.
But, you know, Emmett and Reagan draw it away, and they head to the radio tower because Reagan has a plan where we're going to put the frequency in this antenna so that all radios will be playing the frequency that will be the greatest weapon against them.
And that Death Angel's trying to kill them and break through, and it slashes Emmett's leg while Reagan's in the booth, and she just manages just in time to tune the radio to the frequency of her hearing device and sets it off on the entire radio. And she had instructed Marcus to listen. To keep listening to that station
For my sign.
Listen, wait. How do I reach you? No, that's Mike Gordon, man.
Oh, that was Jim Gordon?
Yeah. How do I reach you?
What does he say? Look to the sky.
Look for my sign.
Look for my sign.
I never thanked you.
You'll never have to. Bruce?
All right. The frequency goes out, and then Reagan's able to kill the Death Angel inside of the studio, and then Marcus at the warehouse, he turns off unplugs the headphones, and he holds out the speakers towards the Death Angel near his family. It's freaking out. Its head opens up. He holds up the revolver and blows it away.
I love how both the kids
Yeah.
kill the Death Angels at the end.
I thought it was awesome. Yeah.
I think it's a great setup for what will be the next film.
Yeah.
And I think it's great for the kids to sort of take on the mantle of protecting the family.
I think that it would be really cool to see a third film in this part of the story with the kids, adults. So I think they're old enough now to probably be like 18 and 20-ish, something like that.
Maybe, because if they made this in 2020, they made it in 2019 probably.
Yeah.
Released it in 2021 because they were going to release it in 20.
5 years
Yeah,
ago.
5 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably young adults, if not. Yeah,
Old
I'm
enough,
sure. I'm
yeah.
sure. I'm sure the sister's got to be
She's got to be around 20.
around 20 years old. But yeah, I think that's the
You
way
can have
to
it
go.
as like the Abbott hunters, like they're angel hunters.
I don't think they'd be angel hunters.
No, because now that they have the frequency, the goal is to kill all the Death Angels
that'd
everywhere.
be impossible.
It's possible.
They're everywhere.
No, it's not like there are millions of them,
How do you know?
because there aren't.
How do you know?
There were only like 50 in Manhattan.
There were way more than 50 in Manhattan.
there were probably
there
like
were
50.
hundreds.
No, there were like 50.
There were way more than 50.
There's no way there are millions of them. There's enough to kill. That should be the goal. That's the next step. Like, how else? You have to make sure the planet is safe. And the only way to do that is to kill all Death Angels. You want things to go back to the way they are. So I think the objective is we know how to kill them, so let's kill them. Everybody's got the frequency. Everybody can go balls to the walls. Let's kill as many Death Angels as possible. And they could be, like, on the forefront of that.
I guess maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd have to try to reach some sort of government organization to let them know that this is a weapon.
Yeah.
I wonder if when it's gonna go into production, A Quiet Place Part 3. Let me see. Let me see if I can Google that.
I'm not sure. They confirmed the Day 1 sequel already. The director
Scheduled
confirmed
to
it.
be 2025.
Who's making it?
Let's see. I don't know if they found a director yet. Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know if that's going to be 2025 if they haven't even announced a director yet.
They have a release date.
There's no way they're holding on to that. It's July 2024, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
These movies require a lot of visual effects.
Do they?
Yeah, Day 1 especially.
Just kidding. It was a joke. Yeah, it probably won't be next year.
But it could be awesome. Could be awesome.
The biggest one yet.
Oh, yeah. I got some fun facts about A Quiet Place Part 2.
You're a fun fact machine.
According to John Krasinski, in the opening town scene, he passes by Brody's Pizzeria, a nod to Chief Brody in Jaws.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
After seeing the first film, Cillian Murphy said in an interview, I wrote this email to John after watching the first one about how much I enjoyed the film and congratulated him on it, but then I chickened out and never sent it. I was like, you don't need to be doing that. He's a busy man. He doesn't need to hear from another actor. 1 year later, he was cast as a lead in the sequel.
That's really funny. And now he's the most in-demand actor on the planet.
Yeah. Legit, literally. This William Friedkin tweeted that A Quiet Place Part 1 is a classic horror film, and he also said, cinema is back.
Yeah, it's really interesting how, I guess it doesn't have a low rating. A Quiet Place, the first one.
7.2 is pretty low.
7.5, Anthony.
For 2?
Huh?
For Part 2?
I'm talking about A Quiet Place. Isn't that what you just said about William Friedkin?
Yeah, he said that about A Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh, Part 2?
Yeah, the film we're discussing.
Oh, I thought it was Part 1. Part 1.
No, this is the trivia for Part 2.
Gotcha. So, yeah 7.2 for Part 2. A Quiet Place is a 7.5. And then Day 1's a 6.8.
Honestly, I'm surprised how overall, generally speaking, audiences don't adore the films because I think they're really spectacular.
It's pretty odd because they're very successful.
Yeah.
But they're really well made. 7.2 on Part 2. That's shockingly low to me.
It's an excellent film, and I'm surprised how low the rating is, and also on Letterboxd like 3.5, 3.4. So I think they're excellent horror films, and
what are you gonna do?
I think they're really
what the fuck
exciting.
You gonna do to make people happy?
I don't know. I think they're really, really awesome movies. I really enjoy them all. I think
they're original, man.
Yeah, it's something new, and it's such great filmmaking, even the new one. But Krasinski really did some fantastic stuff directing wise in the first two films, and they're scary, great action, great set pieces, excellent acting, great scores from Marco Beltrami. I mean, everything about the films I really love, and for me, they're all. I think A Quiet Place. First one is a 9 out of 10, and the other two are 8 out of 10. And then it's an 8 out of 10, and then a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I feel like if I was going to rate the movie, which I don't rate movies anymore, I'd probably give the first one about a 9.
It's great. It's a great movie.
I think it's superb.
And in the clip I posted the other day, I'm telling you, there was a lot of commenters they just said this movie's not good. A Quiet Place 1.
Hey, I mean, people, they have their own opinions, but I think they're wrong.
My opinion is that they're fucking awesome movies.
What are you going to do to please people these days? It's crazy, man.
I don't know, man. They're great movies. They're really great.
They really are. Well, that wraps our episode on A Quiet Place, the entire franchise. Anthony, if you had to rank the movies, what are you going with?
1, 2, 3.
I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 as well.
1, 2, 3.
Easy peasy. Look at that. I want to give these all another rewatch, I think, like next year after the third one digests in my system a little more.
I might watch 1 and 2 soon, like the next week.
Again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go for it, dude. They're pretty great.
After Day 1.
They're really, really great movies. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Be sure to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. And take care, everybody.
Shh. See you next time.
This episode was executive produced by our Chosen One patrons, Jacob Kossler, Nicholas Martin. Our Chosen One patrons are our biggest supporters. Thank you so much. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.